So update on the VPP program. We actually had another event this past weekend, a little bit different than the first one that we had. It was longer period. It was actually a higher pull from the grid. And so I want to just talk a little bit about how this one worked versus the first one, and then kind of how they affect each other. So let's dive into it. Okay, so here is the event that we just had this past Saturday, and the difference between this event and the first event, which was also on a Saturday, but the previous week. So the first event was from 7 p.m. to 10. It was a 3-hour long window. And this event was actually longer than the first one. It was from 6 to 10. And so it was a full 4 hours. And as it says here in the Tesla app, Powerwall is helping stabilize the electrical grid as part of a coordinated support event. And the event will end at 10 p.m. This video here, screen recording was done at 6:23 p.m., so it had just started. And it's going to end at 10 p.m., and then the batteries will recharge from the grid with low-cost off-peak power. So on the day that this event happened, at 6 o'clock, it was still around 114 degrees. And so again, the reason that APS is doing this is, as you can see here, my solar was still producing 1.3 kilowatts at 6:23 p.m., but this is a 30 kilowatt system. And so when 6 o'clock rolls around, the majority of the solar, the sun's gone down basically by that point. And so during the day, the grid is getting a lot of help from a lot of the homeowners that already have solar. That solar is used by the home. Anything extra goes back to the grid, and that helps support the grid kind of naturally and without getting any kind of virtual power plant program or compensation for it. Okay, but once 6 o'clock rolls around and it's still 114 degrees, APS knows that people are going to be using still their ACs are cranking. It's 114, but there's not any support from the solar systems on people's houses. And so now they're relying on batteries for people that sign up for this program to help support the grid, and that's what's happening here. And so here you can see, the home is using 3 kilowatts, the solar is producing 1.3, and then 11.3 is being pulled from the Powerwall, from the multiple Powerwalls, and that is then 9.6 is going back to the grid. And so again, as we mentioned before, the way that this program works is they're going to take your average kilowatt during each hour during an event window for the entire summer season and average that out and then pay you $110 per kilowatt. I was able to find that you can actually see that data not in the Tesla app, but if you actually log into the APS account, then you can actually go to the specific time and date and you can see exactly how much power you pushed back to the grid hour by hour. And then obviously average that out to kind of see, okay, how many kilowatts, what's my current average? And you can kind of calculate at this point, what is that worth? So let me show you guys how that works. All right, so I'm logged into my APS account and this is Saturday. And so a couple things here, you can see off this gray color here, basically that's off-peak generation sold. So that was sent back to the grid. This purple color, that's off-peak energy used from the grid. So you'll see a lot of that like at night, 12 a.m. until 6 in the morning, right? That was all used from the grid. And then the blue, that's basically off-peak generation used. So that basically means solar power. So during the daytime and between 8 a.m. and basically, at least until the afternoon here, it was all solar power, and then it was actually producing extra. So not only was it powering the house, but it was also sending power and selling it back to APS. And that's completely different than the VPP program. That's just an export rate program that they have for solar. But where we really want to focus in is this time from here. So you can see this is 6 o'clock and it's until 10 o'clock. And you see there's no purple, which means like they didn't use anything from the grid, but there is gray, and gray means that we sold power back to APS, and that was during that VPP window 6 to 10. And so if I actually hover over these, you'll see here, it'll say right here in this area, 9.11 kilowatt hours was sold during that hour, okay? Then during the next hour, there was 8.36. During the next hour, there was 8.66. And then during the final hour, there was 9.85. And so the way this again works with APS is they're going to take these 4 hours and they're going to add up that 8.3 and 9.8, that et cetera. Then they're going to divide it by 4, and you're going to get an average. And on these particular ones, it averages to just a little over 9 kilowatts. Now, the first event that we had, which was a week before, that was a 3-hour event. It kind of differed. They pulled a little bit less from the batteries. And that ended up averaging to around 6 when I did the math. So this one averaged around 9. That one averaged around 6. Okay, so 6 plus 9 is 15 divided by 2, because they're going to take both of those events and add them up and then divide them. And so the average was 7.5 kilowatts between these two events. And APS, they're paying $110 per kilowatt times 7.5. So this would be an $825 payout if the 7.5 ends up being the final number, because there might be another event, right? There might be 2 or 3 or 4 other events. The season ends at the end of October. And at that point, they're going to take everything, they're going to add it up, they're going to divide it by all of the event hours, and then you're going to get your average. So again, if there is no other event, and there may not be anymore, right? If we don't have 114 degree days and 118 degree days, they may not need to pull from our battery, and our final number would be 7.5 kilowatts times $110. We would get an $825 bill credit on our APS bill from APS. So that's how the program works. These batteries here, these 4 Tesla Powerwalls, they're storing energy. We're then sending that back to the grid. We're getting paid for it to be part of this program. And it's a great overall program that really benefits everyone. So hopefully that's helpful. If you ever kind of wonder how this program works, that's how it works. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments below. See you guys next time.